Dear friends of Volumetric Trading, good morning from Eduardo Buratini. In this video, the analysis of the S&P 500 and Nasdaq for September 25th, 2025. For the first time in a while, let's say after several days, during yesterday's session, we saw a correction, okay? Let's call it a correction. A first concrete sign of weakness in the American index, the main American index, the S&P 500, which we see has brought the price down from a new failed high, a new double top. A new failed high, in reality a double top that formed on Tuesday. It led us to start forming an initial bearish structure, this from a purely price action perspective. But what about from a volume perspective? This movement not only brought us back below the previous swing low, but also below what was, let's say, the technical level and acceptance zone from the previous week at 6,704. In reality, though, we should consider the entire area around 6,007 as significant. And it did all this by creating distribution directly below that level. Now, obviously, it's not just important that this acceptance in the swing that dropped during yesterday's session happened down here. It's also important that we actually went back to test the previous week's VWAP, which was sitting at a pretty significant level even from a volume profile perspective. You can see that the VWAP at 6,680.3 falls right in the middle of this low volume area. So, what has the price actually built here? It built acceptance right wedged between these levels. Now, what does this mean? First of all, the break below 6,700 was definitely accepted, and in a pretty significant way. Thank you. Just look at the whole area here, which has created an almost perfect distribution right below this zone itself. The fact is, we're in a short directional phase, so we're still in a state of imbalance, even from a certain perspective. In terms of evaluating the current week, obviously, this whole area up above, between 6,700 and 6,705, this little patch of price represents the immediate resistance zone. But be careful, we ended up closing last night at this level, after the price reacted to the test of the value area. A bit confused. The VWAP, 6,683 as we mentioned earlier. So what does this mean? Basically, the price reacted at this weekly VWAP, which is still considered an equilibrium level, but it still hasn't managed to prove itself yet. Of strength or weakness within this narrow price range of 6,705, because in fact it left us with this low volume area that still hasn't been traded. So at the moment, this is a rejection zone. So technically, the price will only give us a definitive sign of a possible continuation of this movement if it keeps rejecting the technical area between 6,700 and 6,705. Otherwise, of course, we'll start to see volume building up in this area here, and that would basically be the prelude to having the strength needed to break through this resistance and, at that point, to go back and almost automatically retest the entire 6,720 area as a first step, and possibly even the 6,740 area. Technically, this is the more difficult scenario, in the sense that to confirm it, we would need to see, during today's session, possible pushes, possible volume building, and above all, a breakout, and possibly a confirmation with a retest of this area above 6,700. Because at the moment, clearly, unless proven otherwise, it has reacted from below. But what we can see is that, for now, there's no immediate acceptance above 6,700, so it's still an outlook that remains in progress. Bearish, since the price has reversed compared to its recent swings. Ideally, a continuation of this bearish move could take us directly to the 6,660 to 6,650 area. These two levels are obviously strong volumetric support levels, and especially 6,650, which is a round number level. The situation is quite similar on the Nasdaq, but we can see that, in reality, on the Nasdaq there is still a bit more weakness in my opinion, because even though the movement is basically the same, first of all, we can see that we still haven't recovered last week's VWAP, so this could already be an initial indication that maybe the price hasn't quite reached where it wanted to go yet, okay. And yesterday's session brought us, well, here to close at around 24,750. But here, unlike the S&P, we actually have we have the exact same distribution situation. You can see the volume distribution basically starts almost perfectly right here where the technical level is, at 24,760. Actually, here the range is slightly wider. We'll measure it in a moment, but it starts exactly here, so there's a perfect confluence with the volume as well. Let's say, of the swing that's still ongoing. Compared to what was, in any case, an area of emphasis created by the past. So, once again, the present is technically confirming the past. The validity of this level comes from the past, and we're in a confluence that keeps the price absolutely bearish in direction. So, potentially, this too, clearly, if today we were to see a breakout directly above this area, 24,750 to 24,760. Thank you. We could see a fairly significant recovery that would bring the price back to 24,800. But we're only talking about 50 points or so, because as you can see, right at 24,800 and between 24,815 and 24,840, we have clear evidence left yesterday by a decidedly strong bearish pressure. So that would be the very first resistance ahead, and even if the price were to recover, it wouldn't be too far away. So potentially it's as if a long move would be natural. With these conditions would be more restrained compared to a short move, which, on the contrary, especially here on the Nasdaq, would have much more room to move. Look at this flat area in the volume profile, which could take us directly, if this area continues to act as resistance, as it currently seems to be, the test of the VWAP at exactly 24,600 and potentially even extend down to the 24,530 and, as a last resort, 24,460. Obviously, everything here also depends on a possible breakout if 24,760 is recovered. Otherwise, we would still see a potentially bearish price action that could have more room to play out. Of course, this analysis is intended purely for educational and instructional purposes and should not be taken as an incentive to take positions or as a solicitation for public investment. Thank you for your attention. For those who are Volumetric clients, I'll see you later on VLive. Have a great day and good trading.